Sunanda Leelaram, affectionately known as Sunanda Ji, has been studying and researching the Vedanta, the ancient philosophy of India, for decades. Her father, Swami A. Parthasarathi, is the founder of the Vedanta Academy, a unique institution of learning that enables the development of the intellect. Dedicating her life to the cause of human development, Sunanda Ji has been guiding leading organizations and universities on the practical application of Vedanta for over 20 years.
Hello and welcome to this special edition. Joining me at the News First studio is Sunanda Ji. Sunanda Ji, hello and welcome back to Sri Lanka. It's wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Speak to us first about the purpose of your visit. You've been visiting Sri Lanka for the past 12 years.
Yes.
What brings you to Sri Lanka this time around?
So this is a tradition that we have maintained over the years. It started with my father and Guru, who's been visiting Sri Lanka, I believe, from the 70s. And what we bring here is the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, which is something that everybody can use in their day-to-day life. Primarily, the message of the Bhagavad Gita is to raise the standard of life, whereby one can find both success and peace in life. So we take this message to the public each year.
Sunanda Ji, the Bhagavad Gita presents principles of life and living that are applicable to human beings regardless of religion.
Yes.
And belief systems. How do you go about making this practical application possible?
So the Bhagavad Gita is a scientific text. Another term that is used for the Bhagavad Gita is Sanatana Dharma, that's in Sanskrit, which means eternal truths, eternal principles. So when we say eternal truths or principles, they don't change with time or age. So they were good in the past when the Bhagavad Gita was written thousands of years ago. It's as relevant today, and it will continue to be relevant in the future simply because these are truths of life, eternal truths. Another interesting factor about the Bhagavad Gita is that it has a universal application, like you rightly said. It cuts across the differences in humanity, across the globe. You know, you could be African or American or Sri Lankan, Indian. It doesn't matter which country you belong to. It doesn't matter what race you belong to. It doesn't matter what religion you follow. You know, first and last, we are all human beings. And what does it take to be a human being? I mean, is there a subject that tells us how to be a human being? To live up to the dignity and prestige of a human being? You would appreciate that the world has progressed phenomenally. What was this world 50 years ago? What was this world 100 years ago? What is it today? What is it going to be 50 years hence? It's going to be progressing. We're talking about amenities, facilities, scientific advancement, the rest of it. You know, the world has become a better place to live in the sense of technology and other facilities. But then the question is, are humans happier? With all this advancement, with all the amenities and facilities, if you make a serious observation, you will find the complications have also increased. People's lives have been difficult to lead without going through stress and strain and worry and anxiety. All that has also increased. So the question is, what's missing? So what's missing is the human being has not been attended to, where the world has been attended to. And there's no subject that addresses itself to the well-being of a human being. So you could say the Bhagavad Gita is scientific, is universal. It addresses itself to every human being to live a complete life, a full life, like I mentioned, a life that will make you successful, efficient, progressive, dynamic, and at the same time, you maintain absolute peace and bliss within yourself.
Okay. Throughout the world, we find that human beings are seeking deeper meaning, deeper purpose in life. Wealth and fame doesn't seem to suffice somehow. And to find this deeper meaning, people look all over. Where do they find it?
So when you talk about a deeper meaning, we come back to the point of a human being. So you could live in this world merely acquiring and enjoying the world. That's pretty much what every human being is engaged in life. We're not saying it's wrong. But when a person is completely involved in these two motivations, to acquire more and then to enjoy what you've acquired, it's kind of lopsided, the achievements. There's something, like I said, missing within. So the purpose that you're talking about is to find that peace and happiness. Everybody is looking for peace and happiness. Now, you could be the richest person, you can be the most powerful person, you can be the most knowledgeable person, you can be the most beautiful person. You're still looking for something. And we genuinely believe it's out there in the world. Nobody stops to think there could be something within ourselves, which is the true purpose of life. I'll put it to you briefly. So a human being is constituted of what we can call an outer personality. That's just your physical body. Now what you're looking at is my outer personality. I'm looking at your outer personality. That's not you. This is not me, the body. So there's something within the outer personality which is referred to as the inner personality. That's carrying, your body is just carrying your inner personality throughout your life. So what is this inner personality? The inner personality is constituted of two aspects, two faculties. The Sanskrit words are manas and buddhi. Manas is the mind, buddhi is the intellect. Now, what is the mind? What is the intellect? Briefly. The mind is nothing but the sum total of all your feelings, your impulses, your wishes, your wants, your desires, your demands, your likes and dislikes. I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this. All that is housed in what we call the mind, manas. Now, superior to the mind, subtler than the mind, is the other faculty, the buddhi or intellect, the capacity to think, to reason, to understand, to know, to distinguish right from wrong, good from bad. This is what I ought to do. This is what I ought not to do. That understanding comes from the buddhi intellect. Now, what's unique about a human being, if you look around nature, even plants have an existence, they have life. Animals are superior to plants because they don't only have a physical existence, they have feelings, they have emotions. You know, even a tigress would take care of its cubs. A deer would take care of its little one. So they have emotions, animals. But they are unable to think for themselves. They don't have the sharpness of the intellect. Even intelligent animals. You know, you say my dog is very intelligent, or you could say a chimpanzee is intelligent. But their intelligence is very minimal compared to a human being. So a human being alone of all creatures in nature is endowed with this ability to think. And that sets the human being apart from the rest of nature. So I talked about the outer personality and the inner personality, which is constituted of the mind and intellect. But then the question should arise in one's mind, what makes the body function? You're seeing me now. You're hearing me now. What makes the eye see? what makes the ears hear, what makes your whole system function. So science takes you up to a point. It tells you, look, there is a brain, there's a system, there's a nervous system, there's a digestive system. There's so many systems functioning within the personality. But the question is, what triggers it out? What is the life principle that enables the whole body and mind and intellect to function? Where science stops, philosophy starts. As long as you are not in your original state, you will experience some form of stress or strain, pressures as we call them. We all go through pressures. And we genuinely believe that these pressures are happening because of something that's going wrong outside of me. I correct that, I'm going to be happy. Yes, you will be happy, but something else will spring up, and something else will spring up. And you go about your whole life trying to correct the world. You do get relief, but it's only temporary. Because the problem is not external, the problem is internal. As long as you don't seek and find the truth within yourself, in and through whatever you're doing in the world, it does not disturb your preoccupation in the world. But one part of you, just as you may be working, you may be doing your business, you've got a profession, you've got family, but don't you take care of your physical body, you exercise, you keep yourself fit. People understand, not all, but people who understand the value of physical fitness would engage a certain time of their day to keep physically fit. It doesn't interfere with their professional lives or domestic lives. Similarly, this is to keep yourself mentally fit. When you seek the higher, you become mentally fit. So in and through your preoccupations in the world, you set aside a certain time to seek and find the truth within yourself. So there are methods. In fact, in the scripture, the 3 methods that are given. Why 3? Because I mentioned to you, you have a physical body that acts in the world. You have a mind that feels. You have an intellect that thinks. Your actions could be absolutely selfish and self-centered, or they could be unselfish and ultimately selfless. So when you use your physical body and act in a way that takes you to your original state, whatever that is, it is referred to as the path of action or karma yoga. When you use your mind, everybody has feelings, but you could have good feelings, you could have bad feelings. You could be kind, you may not be kind. You could be cruel. People have these feelings. Now, if you use your feelings to purify them, to make them universal, see, everybody feels for themselves and their family. This is natural. So I must quote what my father had written in one of the books, the Vedanta treatise, the Eternities. He says, let your family be the center, not the boundary of your affection and concerns. Everybody must think of their family and then themselves. But they stop with that. They don't go beyond that. See, you have your community, you have your society, you have your country, you have the whole world, you have animals, you have the environment. There's so many things to think of, to identify, to feel for, not just yourself and your family. So when you purify your feelings, they move from being completely personal to being impersonal to becoming universal. You are developing pure love. When you choose that path to purify your emotions, it's called the path of devotion or bhakti yoga. Okay? And then finally, when you use your intellect, so we are engaging our intellects to gain knowledge of the world and things that are happening in the world. That's not all. There's something beyond this terrestrial realm that we understand. So when you inquire, what's the truth? What's the reality? What's the purpose of life? You're going beyond this mundane existence that everybody is engaged in. So when you use your intellect, not just to be satisfied with knowledges of the world, but to seek the higher, to seek the truth, then you're following the path of knowledge, which will take you to the truth. It's called Jnana Yoga. Right. So these are the three methods by which you can move back to your original state. And what's more, while you are seeking the higher, the add-ons are these. You will be efficient, you'll be dynamic, you'll be progressive, and at the same time, you maintain perfect equanimity throughout your life.
Okay.
It sounds like a big promise, but it's actually a very practical approach to life, which is given out by this great philosophy of Vedanta, found in the Bhagavad Gita.
There is a Sri Lankan folk story where a grandfather plants a mango sapling along with his grandson, to which the grandson says, "Look, you won't be alive to see the tree bear fruits." And the grandfather responds saying that he has a societal responsibility to plant this mango tree, although he won't be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Speak to us about how important this concept of societal responsibility is. Over the weekend, I had the fortune of listening to your first lecture in Sri Lanka as well at the Buddhist Cultural Center, where you detailed this beautifully.
So what happens in the life of a human? We have what is called a choice in life. No other creature is given this choice. When we say that, you could lead a life that is totally self-centered, selfish and self-centered. Now you may say, what's wrong with that? I just want to think about myself, maybe my family. I'm not concerned about anything else. Well, if you choose to be self-centered, you are bound to go through agitations in the mind. You may ask why. Because the world cannot cater to one's demands. That's not the way the world is designed. So when your interests are self-centered, you always want everything to go according to your frame of mind, which is never going to happen. So when things go fine, you're happy. When things don't go according to your frame of mind, you're going to be unhappy. A simple thing like the weather can bother you. You don't like the rains or you don't like the sun. It's going to bother you every day. You don't like traffic. It's going to bother you every day. You'll be fretting and fuming while you get to office. Why? Because you don't like traffic. It doesn't suit your mind. Now, so what happens here is when your interest is self-centered, you are subjecting yourself to maximum mental agitations. So what does the subject say? Look, you have a choice. As a human being, no other creature you would appreciate has a choice in life. When we say that, a carnivore is born. It must live the life of a carnivore and die a carnivore. It has no choice. It can't switch to vegetation. I'm going to start eating vegetation. No, it cannot. Similarly, a herbivore is born a herbivore. It must live on vegetation and die as a herbivore. It cannot switch. See, what I'm trying to say is if a carnivore does not have flesh, meat to eat, it will die. But it can't say, all right, today let me have some grass. It doesn't have a choice. Similarly, a herbivore must have vegetation. If it doesn't have vegetation, it will die. But it can't switch to meat eating. But look at the life of a human. A human can live on flesh, a human can live on vegetation. You have a choice. Similarly, in all aspects of your life, you have a choice. You can choose to be selfish and self-centered. You can choose to be unselfish. And the highest point a human being can reach or ought to reach is a state of selflessness where, which is what you're referring to, you learn to do what you ought to do, when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. It sounds like a tall order, but not really. you've got to learn to be selfless. It's natural to be selfish, but a human being has a choice to convert selfishness to being unselfish. What does it mean to be unselfish? Like we said, let your family be the center, not the boundary of your concerns and interests. That is moving from selfishness to being unselfish. How far? As far as you can go. But the highest form of living is to be selfless. And interestingly, you learn this lesson from nature. I'll tell you how. The sun rises every morning and sets every evening. Do we care? You say, what else can the sun do? It has no motives. It has no desires. Then why does it do it? Because that is what a sun must do. A rose gives fragrance. It has no preferences. You know, the lady of the house is coming, let me release, extra calories. No? Or the gardener is coming, I don't have to do it. A rose will give fragrance. The lady of the house comes, or the gardener comes, it's the same. Why? Because that is what it ought to do. A rose gives, even if it's by itself, it won't say, oh, I don't have an audience, so I won't. I don't have people to appreciate me, I won't. No. It just keeps giving fragrance. I'm giving you an example of nature where everything in nature functions in the spirit of selflessness, except the human race. And that is why human beings go through stress and strain and worry and anxiety and a whole lot of negative emotions. It's all because we choose to be self-centered, where we have a choice to move out of that self-centeredness and do what we ought to do, whether it's for your family, for society, for your community, for your country, for humanity, for the whole world. You could keep expanding your interests. And the more you move out of your own circle of interest, the more selfless you become.
Sunanda Ji, my final question to you. All of us are living within a capitalistic, materialistic, societal structure and framework. Despite this, how must we find joy, meaning, purpose, and contentment within? What is the starting point?
Now, when we live in the world is meant for humans to enjoy. You know what we say, the objects of the world, better homes, better vehicles, better clothes to wear, better food to eat. It's all available. It's meant for humans to enjoy. So the Bhagavad Gita does not say you ought not to take on to what the world gives you. So for which you need money, you need wealth, So to contact the world, you need to have X amount of finances. There's nothing wrong with earning. There's nothing wrong with acquisition. There's nothing wrong with enjoyment because only a human being can do it. But what happens is, what you need to find out is, what is the value you place for all that the world offers you? Everything that the world offers you has a shelf life. The richest person in the world, is he satisfied with the riches? No. It's not for me to comment, it's for you to find out. He wants more. The most powerful person in the world wants more power. The most knowledgeable person in the world wants more knowledge. The most beautiful lady in the world wants more beauty. Nobody is satisfied with what they have found in the world. So, what the subject is trying to tell you is, you take care of yourself, take care of your life, you acquire what you want, you enjoy what you want, but understand all this that the world offers you has a shelf life. There's something within you that gives you that happiness which you are actually seeking through these objects and relationships that you have in the world. So what we need to do is to look within and find that something which we are missing, which is the knowledge of your essential being. The more you gain knowledge of your essential being, two things will happen. You will be more peaceful, and your dependence upon the world of things and beings will reduce. You can still have it. Today, you're dependent. When you gain knowledge of your true being, you will be peaceful and less dependent. So, a person who is confined to materialism and sensualism and dependent upon the world will collapse if something happens to his relationship with the world or her relationship with the world and objects of the world, because they're totally dependent. When you turn inward and find the truth, the knowledge of your own self, you're like the bird. You use the same world. You're in the same world doing the same things that everybody else is doing, with one difference. You've got the wings of knowledge. So the moment you find something is not working out, you're not dependent on it, you're peaceful, and you know exactly how to handle any situation in life.
All right. And I think that's a beautiful note on which we can conclude this discourse. Thank you very much. This has been a very fruitful elucidation. Thank you, Sunanda ji.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching us. That concludes this special edition of the interview.